"Pepper!" shouted Lismond in a commanding voice. The bald thief, an expression of horror on his face, was desperately trying to back away from the phantasm. So terrified was he that as he shakily retreated, he lost his balance and fell onto his back. The gentle smile that had adorned the woman's face was quick to disappear and was replaced by an expression of fear. The change from emotional beauty to emotional pain was so jarring that it crushed Lismond's and Ernon's hearts in an instant. Ara, seeing what had just happened, felt her own surge of concern and took a few steps back as well, her face turning even more serious than before. "Pepper, calm down," exclaimed Lismond as he reached out for his terrified friend. Now on the floor, Pepper had turned onto his front and was desperately trying to crawl away from the woman, horrified mumblings escaping his lips.
Boss, she's not real. She's a doll."
"Be silent, Pepper,"
interrupted the priest with an expression of contained anger. Surprised by the outburst, the two other thieves looked over at their friend.
But Arnon, she's...
"Stop it! Shut that mouth of yours! Enough!"
Ernon seemed quite angry at the thief and clearly did not want him to speak another word. His strong reaction caught Lismond off guard, but succeeded in calming Pepper.
"My dear son priest, I am well. Do not worry about me so,"
spoke the woman, soothing him. Her voice was still calm and soft, but a touch of sadness could now be heard in it.
My lady."
The phantasm gave Ernon a sorrowful but kind smile, and then turned to Pepper.
"May I have your night glass? I shall return it shortly."
Pepper, still frightened and pale, but somewhat back in control, looked at the woman, who once again looked serene and beautiful to him. She had not approached the thief, clearly not wanting to scare him further. Pepper glanced at Lismond, who nodded to him reassuringly and extended his open hand. Slowly, Pepper removed the trinket that hung around his neck and passed it to his leader with a shaking hand. Lismond took it and in turn reached out to the phantasm, offering it to her with a polite, somewhat apologetic smile. She received it with care and inspected it curiously, running a finger around the silver band that encircled the glass. Then taking it to her own eye, she peered through. Ara and the crypt cleaners watched her slowly scan the garden around her, then raise her own hand and observe it through the lens of the magical object. She stared at the palm of her hand for a few moments, opening and closing it, studying from different angles. Finally, lowering the device, she spoke.
"Either this night glass is a wondrous artifact of the likes I have never seen, or I am a very elaborate phantasm. Am I being tricked, or am I the trick?"
Her smile was returning to her face, although the tone of sadness in her voice had remained.
"But, alas, truth can only be changed if one embraces it,"
she concluded, smiling at Ara, who was watching the whole thing from a few steps behind the others.
"It is far more likely that I am a phantasm, as strange as that is. I cannot begin to fathom the complexity required to create illusory automatons of my magnitude. But my knowledge tells me the alternative is much less probable."
The beautiful woman sighed and returned the night glass to Lismond, who in turn passed it on to Pepper. The bold thief took it and sheepishly returned to his feet.
"Still, I would have never imagined the experience of being a phantasm to be such. I feel so real. I have spoken with phantasms in the past, but they never tricked me into believing them so real. Mayhap I am a lich. But that cannot be. I would have memories of it. Yet I cannot recall my transition."
I am sorry, my lady. Is there anything we can do for you?" Lismond asked, with pain in his voice.
"I appreciate the empathy, my dear serf. I would be grateful to know the story of how I came to be where I am now, a phantasm in this sensorium, in this beautiful garden, clearly the handiwork of my beloved Yosemald,"
she answered, looking at the beautiful scenery that surrounded her with clear affection. "We do not know much of that, my lady. I am so sorry.
Yet it is your master that created me, is it not? Gorith, you called him.
Yes, Gorith the Wise, a powerful moon wizard and a friend of Lord Yosamold, answered Lismond, surprised that the woman had been able to guess her creator.
Oh, my love, what has become of me? And what of you? Is Yosamold alive, or is he also a phantasm like I?
No, my lady, he is not alive, but he is not a phantasm either. He is a lich.
A lich, I see. I am glad for my love then. Moon willing, he shall persist for eternity.
We have heard he visits you every night, my lady,
added Ernon in an attempt to comfort her, which she received with a warm smile.
What year is this?
143. Since the fall of the moon spire, answered Lismond, remembering when Gorith had asked the same question.
The fall of the moon spire? How long have I been here? How do I not know of any of this?
Spoke the woman, a note of worry in her voice. Ara, seeing confusion starting to arise on the lady's face, stepped forward to explain.
My lady, once we leave this room, your memory will leave with us. This has been the case for a very long time, and as far as my knowledge goes, it is the reason for your ignorance.
Lady Idler's eyes opened wide with surprise, and for a moment everyone was able to catch a glimpse of fear in them.
I do not know why your memory is the way it is, my lady. I can tell you, however, that no other phantasm in existence is as real as you are. Perhaps this is the price you pay for your complexity. I do not know. Ah, it makes sense. My memory. I now see that it lacks so much coherence. What a strange dream this is. Every night, my only night. Ignorance, my only shield against this empty pain I now feel.
The crypt cleaners were deeply touched by her sorrow, especially the priest, whose eyes were starting to water.
Let us finish our business then, so I can go back to my blissful blindness and enjoy these beautiful gardens my love has made for me in an eternal pointless night.
My lady, do not say such things. Perhaps we can ask Yosamold to come and share the story behind your state. He will make you feel better, I am sure.
I am fine, my dear son priest. I am sure he has done so in the past, but there is no point to it. I just want for this awareness to cease, as it only brings me sorrow. I do not want to pain my love in any way. If this is what I am, then this is what I had to be. As it stands, my ignorance is both my shield and his. Pray, let me have it back. What is it that you need of me?
A box, my lady. A box hidden within you. That is what our master needs.
And I assume you do not know what this box contains, nor the reason behind his desire for it.
Her voice was sad, yet calm and serene. No, my lady, I'm afraid not.
Very well then, search my body for it,
she said, deftly rising to her feet from the place where she had been lying. She stood stoically now, her posture open. Pepper, can you look for an opening? A place in her body where this box could be stored?
Boss, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to see that again.
Do it now, Pepper, he said with a solemn tone that made the bold thief lower his gaze to the floor. Nervously, he looked through the night glass and, muttering something inaudible, started circling around the woman.
Here, boss. There's something here. A little door of some sort,
spoke the thief, after having found a spot on her back where the seams of a small compartment could be seen.
May I open it, my lady?
You may.
Pepper reached then with a trembling hand and opened the door with frightened care. He pulled his hand back to his face as he peered inside, before hesitantly reaching out once more. From the recess he pulled something out, and to everyone's relief it was the box Gorith so desired. Lismond searched for the black silk purse his master had previously given him, and opened it for his friend to deposit their prize inside. The moment the illusory woman's eyes saw the box, however, her smile was instantly replaced by a serious and controlled expression.
May I look upon that box before you leave?
Tension immediately filled the air. Lismond did not want to let her examine it, as the request seemed suspiciously out of place. Her expression did not suggest simple curiosity, and he feared so close to success that the act would be tempting fate. He could not, however, come up with an excuse that would not potentially result in a direct confrontation with the woman. Seeing himself forced to accept, he nodded at Pepper, who, after receiving his boss's confirmation, sheepishly offered the box to the phantasm.
I am deeply sorry, my dear serfs,
the woman said as she held and examined the box in her hands.
This box, I fear, belongs to my beloved, and I cannot let you have it.
How do you know that, my lady? We do not know what this box is, but our master, your creator, could have been the one that placed it there.
Mayhap he did, but if so, he will have to come and retrieve it for himself. I do not want to part from this box. I think it is a phylactery. It contains Yosamold's soul,
Ara solemnly informed the others.
That is what I fear, and for that reason I cannot let you have it.
A wave of sadness then crossed her face.
What a romantic fool my love has been, hiding his phylactery within me. I fear your master might have somehow played him. Who knows? Perhaps I was but a ploy to steal this very box. Still, my love for him is real, even if I am not. So I will not let you have it, not if I can stop it.
It was then that, with a sudden move, Pepper unscrupulously slapped the box out of her hand, catching the woman completely by surprise. The box fell onto the floor, and before anyone could react, the thief, with surprising dexterity, rolled to the ground, scooped up the box, and started running to the door. Shocked by what had just occurred, but not wanting to stay and see the lady's reaction, both Ara and Lismond bolted right after him. They hadn't run for more than a few steps, however, when they started feeling the strange energies of moonlight coursing through their bodies. Suddenly, a twisting wall of thorns raised in front of them, like a swarm of large worms emerging from the ground. Ara paid no heed to it, and ran straight through the obstacle as if it were nothing, revealing it to be an illusion. The thief leader, however, not being used to such magics, panicked and stopped on his heels. Although he realised his error soon after, the woman had already closed in on him, and he was forced to turn about and face her.
Return the box to me, or you shall not leave this place alive,
spoke the phantasm, all traces of warmth now gone from her voice. Lismond drew out his sword, pained that he had to, but preparing for the worst.
Boss, the door is locked. We can't get out,
shouted Pepper from behind the wall of thorns.
We wish you no ill, my lady. Please let us go,
insisted the band's leader. Ernon felt himself splitting in two. He could not betray his friends, but he could not get himself to hurt the woman either. He could not bear to see the immaculate maiden before him suffer. It felt like a terrible sin. He would rather suffer himself. So shaken he was with hesitation that when Pepper had made his move, he had not managed to go after his friends. He had stood frozen in place, unable to act, feeling like a distant observer, impotently watching as the events unfolded.
The door is magically jammed, boss. There's no way to open it,
screamed Pepper from the sensorium's exit. The illusory wall of thorns was now starting to fade, and Lismond was now able to glance at Ara and the thief, trying their best to budge the door open.
Please, my lady, I don't want to do this,
repeated the swordsman, but no response came from the lady's lips. Instead, her eyes started glowing silver, and a moment later, the Lunarite sword he had been firmly holding was wrenched out of his grip, as if pulled by an invisible force. The blade then magically flew through the air and gently landed across the woman's now upturned palms. It took Lismond a moment to realise he had just been disarmed, but instinctively he quickly reached for his old sword, unsheathing it and preparing himself for combat. The woman now stretched both her arms forward, holding the blade parallel to the ground, her right hand on the grip, her left on the tip. She let the weapon go, and to Lismond's surprise the sword remained in place, floating.
Ernon, snap out of it! Do something! This isn't good!
The Sun Priest shook his head slightly and blinked, attempting to clear his senses. He produced his sun rod with effort, but felt himself incapable of doing anything with it. He did not want to hurt the lady, even if she was a phantasm after all. He was afraid of what the powers of sunlight would do to her. And then, the Lunarite sword started to spin in place. In mere moments, it was rotating so fast that it became a blurred whirling disc. Both the thief and the priest stepped back.
I can't. There has to be another way. Can we not solve this by...
The priest stopped his comment short, sensing impending danger upon noticing a new pulse of silver light in the woman's eyes.
Get down, Lismond!
Screamed the priest, just as the spinning blade launched itself towards the thief. Lismond darted to one side, twisting his body as he did so, barely dodging the disc of death. It shot past his waist, missing by mere inches, and would surely have cleaved him in two. He sprinted then, in a straight line towards the woman, with his sword in hand. The whirling sword wasted no time either, and arced round behind him, shooting now towards his back. Seeing as it was catching up to him, the man leapt to one side and attempted to parry it with his sword as the artifact corrected its trajectory. Lismond's old sword was sliced in half by the rotating witchblade, as if it was no more than a blade of grass. Its upper half was sent flying into the air. Ernon was cursing himself and his own inaction. He knew Lismond wouldn't last long under these circumstances.
My lady, please stop!
Shouted the priest as he raised his sunrod. To his horror, the woman's response was to redirect the spinning sword towards him. Faced with certain death, the priest was forced to instinctively release his light. His sunrod shone with great intensity, and the blade immediately lost control, tumbling into a chaotic spiral and smashing against a nearby wall.
What have you done? This light is wrong,
exclaimed the woman with a face of disgust that shocked the priest. She raised her hands in an attempt to protect herself from the shining sunlight of his sunrod, as all illusions touched by it were starting to distort and waver.
I am sorry, my lady,
he yelled as he continued to release his light, now aiming it directly towards Lady Idler.
What have you serfs done? This is not like moonlight.
The woman's form was starting to falter. Her hands, which were shielding her face, were now devoid of illusions and appeared as the doll's hands they really were. Her dress and arms were growing translucent.
It is raw and brutish, artless and destructive, mindless and entropic.
Something was not right with her voice. It was gradually sounding more distorted and inhuman, but still, Ernon kept shining his light upon her.
Pointless, meaningless, vacuous.
A doll she was now, with only a few parts of her illusion still present. A ghostly human-looking eye, a portion of her lips, remains of her hair. Even her train of thought seemed broken, as she kept on repeating words in a gradually more distorted voice.
Empty, dull, undestructive, mindless, entropic,
And then finally, the doll collapsed to the ground, its ragged form now just a motionless heap.